Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the maiden episode of Histrospophy. Uh, we kind of created this channel we did have these discussions all the time. We created this channel basically just to um, make sense of the world around us. So me and my friend here, Zane, he's a university professor at a prominent U.S. school. Um, we get together, we have lunches, and we just start talking about these things. The next thing you know, it's 3 hours later. So we decided one day, let's just start recording all these things. So we're kind of
So,
going through all this whole mess just to kind of make sense of everything going on in the world around us. But yeah, but go ahead, Zane.
so today we're going to focus the whole time on fully automated luxury space gay communism. That seems very important these days,
There's a lot. Yeah, that's
especially
kind
the
of
fully automated. I'm not interested in luxury space gay communism unless it's fully automated. I don't want some cheap model.
the fact that that's on the political spectrum is mind blowing. But that's the kind of the topic of our discussion today. We're in any
Everything's
good
mind
conversation.
blowing now.
Yeah, every good conversation you have to define your terms, and that's one thing that we've learned since we've had all of our discussions together. We have to define the words we use because they mean different things to different people. So every good debate should start with definitions, and that's kind of what we got into with the political spectrums because the political spectrum's gotten so completely ridiculous and out of control with so many terms and so many variables that it doesn't make sense anymore. And I proposed a simplified one. But Zane didn't really like it. So, but let's take a look at the one that kind of started this whole
Yeah.
conversation.
Which one
So,
started it? The one you like started it, didn't it?
no.
Yeah,
Well, this is the one that originally
this
came
one.
through. Yeah,
I
and
wish I had known that when I went to conferences. I 100% would have used that as my pronouns. Fully automated luxury space gay communism.
there you
I
go.
fully would have identified as that. I'm not even joking. I'm not making a joke even. I actually would have done that and had it on my shirt and everything.
It just doesn't make any sense. And I think the
Does
convolution
it
is part of
matter?
the problem. Well, I think there's a
Yeah.
reason for that. I think academics try to make it. It's very much like economics in my point of view because they try to convolute economics, which is generally a pretty simplistic thing, and they've made it to where it's so complicated that nobody can figure out what the Federal Reserve actually does. Nobody can figure out
It's
what fractional reserve banking is. It's gotten out of control.
part of it has to do with specialized jargon for certain businesses. But in the humanities, in terms of theory, it had to do with deliberate obfuscation so that you could argue with somebody and eventually they would admit, I understand half of what you say.
Yeah,
And
and I
half I
think
don't,
that
you must be really smart. So I'm just going to get in.
I think it's on purpose. I think they've made it to where nobody
Of
really can
course.
identify with anything, so they don't understand exactly what they're talking about or what their tribe believes. And it's even gotten more convoluted within the Republican and Democratic Party. You have things like the big switch, and they have all these things have gotten so ridiculously convoluted. And this spectrum just proves that point, in my opinion. I have no
Which
idea
is
where I
why I
fall.
don't like, which is why I don't like the graph that you like because it doesn't say anything.
Well, I
In
think
other
it says
words,
everything that you need, and that's the whole point.
if you say but you can't say, if you say everything, that means you're saying nothing. You have to say
Well,
part.
Well, I think what's gotten convoluted, and we'll get to this later too when we show that actual
All
thing.
right.
But
I
what
found
what
some
came
other things too.
what came into so they had this spectrum come out. We're big
Mhm.
fans of What If Alt which is a great channel. So if you haven't watched
Yeah.
What If Alt everybody go check that out. Subscribe and like. And while you're here, subscribe and like to this channel too. So we're going to build up. We're going to have discussions every week on this stuff and basically take our lunchtime conversations into the digital world. But so What If Alt proposed a new political spectrum, and he went to this, which is a political triangle, which is highly simplified. And he
Let me
didn't.
pull that up.
I don't think he created this. His friend created this, but his friends has a lot of
No, his
discussion.
friend did.
Yeah, his friend's a good, apparently a philosopher, and this one is simpler and it is cleaner and it does make much more sense, and it does allow you to kind of place yourself on a spectrum that you may
I
want
can
to
see
associate
where,
with.
I don't know where you are, but I'm with Putin, Pat Buchanan, and Le Pen.
Yeah,
That's
you
pretty
you,
much
you tend to be on
where I
the
fall.
the odd thing about you, my friend, is
Right.
that you're into theocracy right now. and I'm into much more libertarian freedom,
Well,
kind of right.
oh yeah,
Libertarian.
libertarians the worst. Yeah, libertarians are the worst. They need to be shot
It's
on, on sight.
I would say I would respectfully disagree. Only because it's the only one that gives you freedoms. But I mean, but this spectrum is pretty good as for what it tries to accomplish, and it's far superior to the one that on the previous screen that we were showing.
But not quite as much fun.
But not quite as what?
But not quite as much fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the other one just got terms all over the place. It's like a word salad. It's kind of like Kamala Harris talking. It's just a bunch of
Kamala Harris, yeah, yeah. But who doesn't like? I love to watch her word salad videos. They're hilarious. I can watch them several times.
Unburdened.
We're in the community. The reason the community is important to banking is because banking depends upon the community, and they know it's a community because the people in the community depend on the bank. Just something like that.
And the bank in the community is made of people, and the people are the community. Yeah, she says the most ridiculous. It's like talking to
Of course, the worst was time. The worst was when she said, now Ukraine is a smaller country and it's next to a larger country called Russia. So Ukraine is smaller, Russia is bigger. I mean, like, when she's talking about time, what was it? Space is a very important thing.
I have no idea what she's saying half the time. Yeah, she's insane, and the fact that they put her up for the Democratic nominee with zero votes is unbelievable.
And nobody likes her. The Democrats don't really like. They're just pretending right now to like her.
So do you think that that this is just because they know they're going to lose to Trump, so they're just kind of putting up a patsy, or do you think that she actually has a shot?
I think it's really complicated the reason she's up there, but because she was never voted for during the primary.
Yeah, the primary.
She was stuck up, and she was stuck in there, as vice president. He really didn't want her. Biden never liked her. His administration used her for anything, which is why she floundered around, not knowing what to do. And then he unwisely wouldn't leave because he had dementia. And so they're kind of stuck with her because they can't really, she's the vice president. They can't just pick out somebody randomly. They can't say, okay, Pete Buttigieg, you're just over her now. Because
I mean, do you think it would be fair?
All they can do is go with her.
Do you think it would be fair to have an actual Democratic convention where they vote on these things to put their best foot forward?
Well, that was the idea a while back, and they actually will be doing that. See, right now, it's not 100% sure it's going to be Kamala. She has it, in theory, she has the votes, but that's just because she asked people on the phone. You understand? Nobody put this in writing. She just said, are you voting for me? And they say yes. But they're not really obliged to vote for her when they get up there. If somebody else wants to come out, like if Hillary Clinton wants to run on the stage and push her off the stage and they decide, yeah, we're voting for Hillary, then Hillary's going to.
That would be repeated.
That would be great. Can you imagine Hillary? Can you imagine her physically running across the stage, pushing Kamala off the stage, and then running around like a boxer who just won the boxing?
Just one, yeah.
That would be great.
That make for good for TV for sure.
I wish there was someone I could write to suggest that to.
No, I feel like they're throwing her to the wolves, and they know. I think they know they can't beat Trump this go around. Like everybody, his rallies are just massive now. They showed a Kamala Harris rally. Right. There's like 50 people there. They have Trump, and he goes to. There's like street is full of people all the way for like miles.
Oh yeah, but what it's done is it has made them feel better because the Democrats were in a malaise. They thought we have to go through this. It's obvious Biden can no longer move or speak. Mm-hmm. So, it's depressing. At least they have someone who, she can move, she can speak, she thinks rationally. She's a functioning human body. So now they're a little bit more excited because the chances are not zero that she loses. There's a non-zero chance she's going to lose. We say Trump's going to win, which is true. But, like if you said, there's a non-zero chance that right now the sun is going to explode. There's a non-zero chance that,
that an asteroid's going to hit the earth. Right.
Right this second. as we're speaking.
I think, yeah, I think that they're literally just throwing her to the wolves. I think she's just a patsy for them to fail until the next term they could try to run somebody better.
Right.
But they're horrible. They're horrible people like that do that. I mean, the fact that they waited so long just to let Joe go out of his out of his geriatric
Yeah,
home,
no.
wherever he was, it was
His
just
wife
awful.
should have. Well, I was surprised at his wife because I thought, well, she's an educator. You
It's
know,
like
I
it's like
don't have that much.
elder
I don't
abuse.
have that much. Yeah, I don't have that much. You know, admiration, even though I am an educator for educators. But I thought, well, she's decent. She's dealt with education. She would step in and be kind to her husband. But I think she was really willing to just prop him on a stick like a dead body.
Hmm.
As long and what was so great about it? It wasn't like she was any beloved first lady. It's not like she was Michelle Obama or something. Nobody cared about her.
No,
And
she
I
was.
hated the way everybody had to call her doctor all the time,
Oh, she
like
was
she was
awful.
some big deal.
After the debate, when she's on the stage screaming, like talking for Joe, what did Trump do? Lie, and everybody's like, nobody knows what to say. They're all like,
You are a good boy. You
you,
answered all the
yeah,
questions.
you answered every question with facts, and I'm like, well,
Now
this
you
guy,
get a cookie. She didn't even say with facts. She just said you answered every question like you would a child that would
it
check
was
off all the boxes, and you would
it
say,
was
"Now you get
insane,
a cookie." It
right?
wasn't
That's it.
saying that. That
Except
really lost it a lot.
he gets ice cream. Yeah, that took a lot of steam out of his campaign. There's no question
It
about that.
did. Yeah, just that's that she can blame herself for that.
She ruined it for him. She's awful. But I mean, like in general, what do you think that the current Democratic Party is going full communist or socialist, democratic socialism?
Now, this gets back to the terms again. Like
Mm-hmm.
we argued about Catholic and Orthodox for 30 minutes. I'm still thinking about that. I'm still thinking, and gotta look up stuff on that. I'm thinking, when did they first actually start using word pope, which I guess is left, but that's another topic.
For sure.
See, now you know my theory. I already told you. We are in a global techno feudalism, which is not my term I invented.
Mm-hmm.
So we already live in a kind of communist state. They give us just what we need. Like here's some weed, and here's TikTok, and that's all you need to be happy. And just let us suck everything out of your brain that we can, and tell your body what to do, and take this shot. So we already live in that.
So would you say that the common, I mean, or I guess a more common term for that would be like a deep state, or is it bigger than a country?
I would say right now we live in a global capitalist communist state. It's capitalism. It's just that our role in this capitalism is not to own things and trade. We are the product and we are the one buying.
Mm-hmm.
We're buying everything and we're producing everything and we are the product. It's not like I used to go out and, I don't know, make horseshoes or something and sell them on the side of the road and somebody would buy them and it was change. All this, it doesn't matter anymore. I think that's why it doesn't matter about the debt. I mean, the deficit. Everybody talks about the deficit. I don't think it matters anymore. You think it matters, but you're still thinking it's like regular exchange, the products being exchanged from one country to the next. I'm saying no. We already live in a techno state now.
Well,
I
I
say
agree.
it's
I agree with that.
communist because we don't have ownership. Think about it. What do you own? Oh, I own my car. How often do you get a new car? Every 5 years. Oh, how do you own this shirt? Yes. How often do you get a new shirt? Every 2 weeks. You really? Oh, I own my YouTube. Do you have a YouTube? No, it's just stream it. You see, everything we have is just temporary.
Yeah, no, I
It's just temporary.
100% agree with that. I think
Except land, and you yourself said that corporations are buying up all the land.
they're buying up gulps of land, like huge tracts of apartments
Yeah.
and houses, and they're renting them back out. But even then, so even if you own your house, which I think to me is highly unconstitutional, you own your house. If you miss a payment on your tax on your property tax, they confiscate your home. And I
How
think
many
that's
people walk out with $1 million and buy a medium-sized home and own that outright? What percentage of the population are not making any payments? They just pay cash for $1 million house.
oh, probably less than 1%. It's got
Yeah,
to be
maybe
ridiculous.
1%.
But I mean,
Right.
but if
So
you
and
define like
even they could have their house taken away easily enough if the bank had to
oh
go
yeah,
through.
yeah, I think that that law is unjust. So like I had a friend of mine who bought a house, his first home, um, a friend named Chris, and he bought his first home. He was missing. He had an automated payment system set up, so it would just deduct from his bank account every month. Um, it was a few pennies short on the actual payment amount, and I want to say like maybe a cent, but over a couple of years of him, maybe 5 6 years him paying it, it ended up being like $8 he owned in back taxes. Well,
Yeah.
they put it in the newspaper. They didn't contact him or anything. They put it in the newspaper, and next thing you know, there's a sheriff, hammering a sign in the front of his house into the
Yeah.
ground and saying this is going up for tax sale. He's like, "What do you mean? I paid every month. Here's all the receipts." And they're like, "Oh, you owe
Right.
$8." And if he didn't go straighten it out, and it took him like about 2 weeks to straighten everything out with the and it was a state government, it was local government. They were terrible, and it was like I was thinking he almost lost his house, and he just had a baby and everything over $8. Like they couldn't reach out to him and say, "Hey, your calculation's wrong. Let's adjust it or fix it." It doesn't
There's
do it.
nobody to reach out. Here's the thing. It's more and more just a system, a
It's a
digital system.
well, it's
Like right
managerial
now,
though.
you call up. How often do you call up somebody now? Actually, get a manager. That'd be great if you could actually walk in an office and talk to the manager, and they would say, "Yeah, you owe $8, but we didn't call you." Even that would be great. Now it's
Right.
just like everybody's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about," until it gets to
Yeah.
the computer guy who says, "Oh yes, this calculation."
Right.
So
Whatever's on the screen.
it's
Yeah.
all part of the yeah. So increasingly, it's the computer system itself that knows.
Yeah.
Now, somebody might have the title of manager, but you ask them and they're like, I don't know.
They got to
I'll
look
have
on
to
the computer.
contact somebody else. Yeah,
Right.
or I have to contact somebody else.
God forbid anybody hack those systems. I mean, because like it would be just a nightmare. Nobody would know anything. Like if you had the power to
Well,
control
that's what I mean
computers
by
with your mind,
techno.
it would just eliminate
That's
everything. Yeah,
that's what I
I
mean
do
by
agree.
techno. We literally live in a global technological system that is slowly altering our bodies, and we don't own anything. We just use things like the phone you wanted me to buy. Like I have this phone.
Mhm.
I'm getting a new. It's really of no value. It costs nothing to build.
Yeah,
Of course, I'm discounting all the child slave labor that I probably should include.
that's a big thing too. Yeah, people don't think slavery still exists, but it does. But yeah,
Oh,
it's just gotten out of control with these things, man. Like it's, I mean, to me, and this is where we differ a little bit. Like you're insisting that the capitalism is not the solution to these problems. Like
no,
you're
it's
like, oh,
dead.
we're
I'm
already
saying we're past late stage capitalism into something that is post capitalist. We live in a post capitalist state, which means that because communism was this counterpart to capitalism, right? Capitalism started developing, and as capitalism was developing in the form we think of it now, with the early corporations, 1850s, that's when communism's developing. But you can't have one without the other. You understand? They're two sides of the same piece of paper. So now
wait,
that
wait.
capitalism is
Are you saying
gone,
communism and capitalism are the same thing?
they're two sides. Like if you have ownership, if you have private ownership, then you have group ownership. And they both developed at roughly at the same time in history. You know, mercantilism coming out of like the 1600s, 1700s. Then you have Adam Smith, you have capitalism developing. What's also coming up at the same time? Karl Marx starts looking at the capitalists and thinking, this won't last. He's an
Well,
economist saying, this is not going to
he was doing it in
last but
response
another 50
to
or so. Well, he was wrong.
yeah, but he was doing it in response
His
to
analysis of
Adam
England.
Smith. Yeah, he was doing Adam Smith wrote Wealth of
He's
Nations.
doing his response to, but he was doing it in response to his analysis
Right.
Of his understanding of the British economy, not the German economy.
No, but yeah, but
So,
through Wealth
so
of
he predicted
Nations.
50 years. I mean, your grandfather still lived in capitalism. My grandfather, he still owned property and had a farm, and he bought stuff
See, I would argue,
and paid
I would
everything
argue
off
that
cards, and that was capitalism.
I would argue that there's no such thing as late stage capitalism. It only becomes a corruption of it. Like to me, what they have now is crony capitalism, and it's just enough to support a Keynesian state or Keynesian state, to where there's plenty of socialism. America is a is a probably 50% or more socialist country where there's, you know, massive government handout
By
programs.
socialism, you just mean that by socialism, you mean the government does. Like when I say socialism, I mean public roads or anything. It's, as long as the government is taking tax money and doing stuff, I think of that as socialism.
In a way, yeah, but those are usually agreed upon. But what they do now is not that. In other words, they're not really putting things to a vote. They're kind of, and it's gotten more and more recently, and Trump's just as guilty, in my opinion, of just doing like executive orders for things that really don't
That's
follow.
okay with me.
See,
You see, I don't care anymore. I don't believe democracy still exists either. I don't think our votes really count. I think all that is manipulated. I think they play with our brains using mainstream media. And I think ultimately it doesn't matter who we vote for. And we get the two candidates that are almost, I mean, but it's not like I'm voting for, I don't know, Putin versus, name somebody, some Bernie Sanders. It's not like there's an obvious difference. We have we're the largest, strongest, wealthiest nation in the world. And we have two people and two parties that are both beholden. I love that word, everyone uses it. Beholden to corporations, really so intertwined with corporations, there's no difference. So I've just written the whole thing off. That's why I'm just like, I just want a God king. I just want basically a pope. I don't know about the pope, but basically I just want everybody to turn to God and just give up this whole capitalist.
See, I think capitalism is the only thing that's going to save people because it actually gives you the freedom. Now, I don't believe there's late stage capitalism. I believe it becomes crony capitalism, which is an erosion of what capitalism.
Well, we'll just call it the same. We'll say crony capitalism is late stage capitalism.
But it could be
a lot of what we're talking about now is just terms, you know.
Well,
we're just talking about different.
That's the whole point of this episode, is just to define these terms and get them out in the open.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and I think like Jordan Peterson had the best critique of what communism is, as far as, in my opinion, the most succinct and the best line. He did it on Joe Rogan. I think he was arguing with Brett Weinstein, and Peterson said Marx's criticism of capitalism was correct in that it's a Pareto effect, and it is something where it happens in all human endeavors where a small percentage produce the most amount of any artistic endeavor or any creative endeavor or any company endeavor. And that is true, but we don't know a solution for that. So the only solution would be that we have currently is capitalism has done the most for society in ever. And this has never happened before. We've had, 7,000 years of kings and feudal systems. We create a capitalist system, and then suddenly everything blows up in the world, and we have all these technological advances, and people rising out of abject poverty. People rising out of poverty. It's a big deal. So then the communists come in and critique this, and then they say, "Oh, the solution for that critique of a Pareto effect, where a small percentage ends up with most of the money," and that's true.
Right. It's true.
But we diversify those creative endeavors. So if you're the best
spread the money around. Spread the money around
as much as possible. But we don't have a solution now that is good enough that's better than that. And it's not that capitalism is perfect, and that's the problem. Most people say, "Oh, that capitalism's got this problem, so let's introduce a completely communistic or socialistic view," and then that's what erodes it even more. So, in my opinion, the reason we're seeing the U.S. is suffering these problems right now, these economic problems, is because of the government intervention, not in spite of it. And so what blows me away about the Democratic Party is that they'll say, healthcare and this and that, but government created healthcare issues, not the ones that the government left alone, like LASIK surgery, for the most part, like maybe some orthodontics, those things have reduced in price over time, which is the natural flow of capitalism. The things the government intervened in, like massive healthcare, have massively increased over time. It was just like they did the same thing with universities. Universities used to be, when I first started school, it was $1,000 per semester, and that was pretty expensive at the time. And then they guarantee the student loan, so the schools are like, "Hey, we can charge whatever we want because the government's going to pay."
Yeah, that was a big mistake. Those student loan
huge mistake.
Loan payments was a. Although, and I don't really know about this. If you go back, if you go back prior to that, how state schools were run on tax money. If you go back like 100 years, we're talking about like 1935 or something.
Yeah.
Wouldn't state schools been run on tax money? And there were no loans. You just went to school if you had the cash to pay, but they weren't that expensive. And if you had a lot of money and connections, you went to really exclusive schools.
Right.
Right.
But that's kind of become corrupted over time to where now the states are having to subsidize the schools at massive levels, and now they're also massively federalized with the federal government guaranteeing the loan. So the schools are like, we can increase our price because we know the government's going to pay, so they don't care. It's a third party buyer system, which is
well, that's
horrible.
the same way. Well, it's the same way with the whole. I don't know what you want to call it. It's like the circle in the. It's like the medical industrial complex where you have the insurance companies and the doctors and then the hospital and pharmaceutical companies, and they can charge whatever they want. Money's flowing from what you understand. We're paying so much to the insurance companies,
right?
And it doesn't matter.
A lot of those prices are set by government mandate too. So the government will come in and mandate
like what?
You must they have a pricing scheduling system. So like the government says, oh, aspirin are typically $15 because we have to pay for all these other things, like and we're guaranteeing a lot of this money. So the government is what came in and destroyed the cost and quality of healthcare. Just like cell phones, over time, the government's not involved with technology and cell phones, so those got so much cheaper over time. I mean, the phones we have now are massively fast and they cost a few $100. Whereas, if the government was involved with it, they would be massively expensive and probably never innovate over time. So that would be, that's always my problem is anytime the government comes in, steps into any industry, they almost immediately destroy and everything becomes outlandishly expensive. And yet the Democratic Party solution is,
you can say that about the military industry too. I mean, I know you've been affiliated. I worked for the military. You can say that. I saw so much inflation. Those budgets are so hugely inflated. It's unbelievable. But
that's what the government does. That they come in and they increase the price of things. It becomes less efficient, and over time, this gets horrendous. It becomes a massive bureaucracy that costs a ton of money. There's no end goal.
So, what does that apply to the military?
To everything, to almost anything the government.
Would you like to see a totally privatized military?
No.
You would have your own military.
I think
Walmart would have its own military or something.
I think you could reduce the government down to what its constitutional mandate would be to protect the country with the military as needed, But
no, I mean just have completely get rid of the government military altogether and have everybody just privatized military. No, you pay like Walmart to protect you or something.
No, I don't think privatizing is a solution. That's one of the things. There's a few things that the government did not want privatized, and military was one of them. And that's because of coups and the possibility.
Well, they're doing it. I can tell you, they're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But
if you have anybody working there now, you can ask.
So that to me is what the definition of fascism would be. Fascism would be industry tied in a few corporations basically tied into the government, really running a lot of things. And we talked about this the other day.
Isn't that what we have now?
Yeah, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard.
BlackRock.
They own 88% of every stock that's in the stock market. They own 88% of those companies, and it is unbelievable what they're allowed to do. They're buying up land like crazy, so they're going to rent it back to you, so you're paying the note for them.
Right.
And it's absolute insanity. I mean, BlackRock has $11 trillion in assets, which is the third largest economy in the world. The only two that are bigger are United States and China. BlackRock's the third largest economy in the world, which is insane.
Yes.
So that literally to me is fascism. So when people throw the term around fascism all the time, they don't really know what it means.
Yeah.
They think
everybody throws it around.
They think it needs Nazism and Hitler, but it's really not. Fascism is a corporatocracy.
Well, that's why I don't like that. That's why I don't like that particular libertarian leaning. Where's the graphic that you like?
Well, let's get to that.
It means a bundle of stick. It means you worship the government. The government. It's not the government. It's not the government you worship. The people themselves. It's like if everybody decided we are Americans are powerful, and only by sticking together and having a strong leader like Trump, this is where they get the idea, can we have value in our lives. Because it's not about God, it's not about it's not like a liberal thing where it's about individual creativity or anything. It's about the power of the state, and the state's made up of individuals. So this is how it made sense with Mussolini. Whereas Nazism was its own little thing that was kind of bound up with purity and the history, rereading of history in terms of Germany. It was its own little form of fascism. You could call it a form of fascism. Fascism is a more general term.
I agree. Yeah. But to me, the result is always the same. So if you have a communist system, a Nazi system, a fascist system, it is basically government control of your entire life and every aspect of your life. There's no escaping it. Everything you do will be mandated, regardless of what you want to do, will be mandated by the government in some form or another. So to me, this political spectrum makes the most sense. And where you want to be is somewhere towards the rightish, where the little metal dots rivets start. You want to be somewhere around there with a Republican form of government, a republic. So that's what the Germans had, and it got corrupted over time. And it got, not the Germans, the Romans had. The Romans had the exact same thing. They kind of created this whole concept of rule by law. And once that became corrupted with more government intervention and more government, handouts, and it's just like we're going through today. What If Altiz actually did a really good episode of the parallels of the Roman Empire and the American Empire, and it is spot on. The decadence, now you tend to lean towards.
I saw it.
You tend to lean towards the theocracy side of it, which I do respect. But I don't think that is a good system of government.
Okay. But you think this because you're really in terms of the global economy and how people live all over the world, you're fairly wealthy. So you have a very stable life. If everything rises, people are not going to say, I want freedom. If like somebody's next door comes in and is like hacking your wife to death, or setting your dog on fire or something.
But that's what laws are for. So you're
not going to say freedom. You're going to say give me the military, give me a strongman, give me a fascism. No, but Trump. But once things start falling apart, you want strength. But when everything is great, like for us, where we just float through life basically, then of course we're worried about individual freedom.
I don't think that applies. In other words, what the original framers of the Constitution did was absolutely correct. In the best form. It's not perfect, but it's in the best form that it's ever been written before. And the reason that is because with zero government, you're not free at all, because you have to protect everything you own. With a little bit of government, and the government's sole job should be not sole job, but the primary effort of the government would be life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which I would substitute the term property for. So life, liberty, and property. If the government is
because happiness is so relative, and
it is, but pursuit of happiness means my desire for my property is different from the desires of your property. So if you want to go buy a Pokemon collection, more power to you. It has nothing to do with me. I shouldn't be able to limit you in that, or I shouldn't be able to steal that. And that's what the government should protect. The government should protect from property. And so you're actually freer than you are with zero government when you have a Republican form of government. With just enough government to protect, you can actually leave your home. You don't have to sit there and protect it all the time. You can, and that's what it was for.
In the 18th century, I can see how that made.
But it still applies today. Like
a colony. Not really. This is
people like to act like
total simulation.
See, this is one of the conundrums of you, my friend. You adhere to the beliefs from 2,000 years ago of a Christian, religion, which I 100% agree with and respect. But does age deteriorate that over time? Does that become non-important? And what I'm saying is that capitalist is saying, you're like, oh, that's old.
The world has changed. The world has changed since 1700s. The world has changed a lot.
But people haven't. People haven't changed in 2000.
The Constitution. People. But I'm saying, did they have cars? Did they have cell phones? Did they have
It
modern
didn't.
medicine?
The only argument you can
None
make
of
for an
that.
increase in government would be to increase the traffic laws. And I 100% agree with increasing the traffic laws to make things safer. But that doesn't mean it has to become,
I
oh,
would say technology has changed the game.
well,
It has
technology
changed the
has,
game.
but it hasn't changed human nature.
Everything you said made sense. And okay, let's not get into human nature because that's the different. But I'm saying in terms of the physical world and how the government, how the police knock on your door, how you drive to the store, the physical world, technology has changed the game. What applied in the 16, 17, 1800s in terms of capitalism and the government living you off and monarchy, none of that matters anymore. I'm saying we're headed toward a total global apocalypse in which people would just be, I'll just walk out my door and walk over piles of bodies with no heads. So at that point, I'm going to say, we need some kind of order. We need some kind of order. And my idea of order is a global Byzantine theocracy. That's mine. Now, you may have a different one. You may want some version of, you may want the Pope to be in charge of everything. Some people would want Trump, or a lot of people would get a figure in charge. I'm just saying somebody's got to be in charge. It's like I'm watching a wave come and it's going to hit us in, and you're discussing, well, where should we put the chairs on the beach? And I'm thinking, it doesn't matter where you put the chairs on the beach because we're about to be hit by a tsunami.
Well, I 100% agree, but my argument is that the only way to avoid that is to allow the people to have individual freedoms and individual rights. Otherwise, no matter which one you form out of these, if you form a total, let's say Greek Orthodox,
whatever form,
whatever form,
whichever type of.
So let's say you have a total theocracy, a total government of just with a religious order,
or communism. These are extreme.
Or communism.
Fascism is extreme. Socialism, we live in socialism over here, so it's all right.
So the reason socialism is transitional to me. Socialism always leads into communism over time. It's never not done that. That's why even the Nazi Party called themselves National Socialists. I mean, like they were not.
Of course they were the German. They were the German socialists. National German socialists.
Socialists. They were not fascist. Fascist was started in Italy and then carried over into Spain, perfected in Spain, I should say. But the reality is that all these governments, the reason why I like this spectrum is it is correct when you have a total government, all of the results of those different forms that everybody would spout out different types of things are all the same, which is total non-freedom for you, non-choice for you. You don't have any input into the system. It's just it's literally somebody dictating to you. It is a oligarchy.
But all this freedom, you're talking about freedom in terms of property ownership. And when I say freedom, I'm thinking in terms of degeneracy. Like, should we be free to be pedophiles? Should we be free to rape or murder or torture people or do anything we want? No.
No, because you're infringing on somebody else's rights. In other words,
what if it's just a dead body? What if I'm only having sex with a corpse? Is that infringing on anybody's rights?
It's still another person. That's the whole point, is that the laws were designed to protect the individual, and the laws are in the individual property includes the individual itself. So that would be the reason that when people talk about,
repeat that. That doesn't make any sense. Repeat that.
The property is the expression of the individual.
So what you own,
you're free.
You own. So everybody needs to own their own plot of land, their own garden, and then whatever I do that impinges on that garden, not necessarily your body,
is a violation of law. So in other words, if let's say we have a very limited government and just framed by the Constitution, the reason it worked for so long and so well is that people were free to do. Now, if I have a plot of land and a property and I want to grow corn, the guy next door to me wants to grow tomatoes, but the bugs for the tomatoes affect my corn. So it's up to the two people to work out some terms saying, hey, the bugs from your tomatoes that love the tomatoes are coming to eat my corn too. So we need to work out something, or maybe we need to put a fence up or whatever. But having the government dictate, okay, instead of you growing tomatoes, you're only going to grow corn just like this guy. And that would help solve the problem. And the government would make a decision like that. But I don't think the government has the authority to make those kind of decisions, because all we're doing with our property is feeding ourselves. We're growing our own products so we can live. and have the right to live. And that's what it comes down to. Like you are not.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you, but it sounds like you're living in a fantasy world. It sounds like you live in this dream movie where
How is that a fantasy world when that was literally the first
farmers
200 years
walking
of this
on.
country?
Well, that's gone. That's gone. It's all over with. It's never coming back. And you
It-
act like everybody's walking down the country lane like everybody out the howdy neighbor, how you doing now? Now, Eb, I noticed that your fence is falling down,
But the thing
and
about
that's
it
causing I don't live in that world anymore.
is you're saying that it's that time is over with, but it didn't exist until the
Yes,
Constitution was
over.
written, really. But what I'm trying to say is, I think if you look at like Alexander Tytler, he wrote the Tytler's Wheel of progression. So and that's kind of goes back. Just Tytler's Wheel would be like
Let me see.
the hard times create strong men create weak men, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the
No, not strong men create. Hard times create strong men. Strong men
Yeah.
create
good
weak
society.
times or something. Weak times create. Let me look that up. I can't.
It's Titler.
Hitler's Wheel.
Yeah, and it sums it up pretty well. But the thing about it is
Right.
when people have had that taste, people have always wanted that. They just never had a means to be able to have that kind of freedom. So when you're saying that it's over and dead, I think that it's the revolution aspect of people.
No, it's not. It's a quote from a post-apocalyptic novel by some guy, Hawk. But I like it. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, which is where we are now.
Yeah.
And now these weak men are going to create hard times.
Yeah,
I agree with that completely. And I'm saying we already have weak men. There's no point in even trying to go back. We just have to get ready for the hard times, and then we have to have strong men, like people, like strong monster men who will just go up and like in zombie apocalypse.
Well, that's what
you're assuming we can go back to strong men create good times, but first we have to go through the hard times. You want to skip the hard times.
I don't necessarily want to skip it.
To
what I'm saying is the fact that document exists, and that there was a time in history where people were freer than they are now, and they had the golden age of society where the Western world was created, Western civilization was created, and it's been
the golden age.
And we're living through the greatest time in human history with technology and the lack of things we have to do to survive. Because that exists, anything in the future is going to harken back to that. Say there was a time when this did exist and we could do it again. So, in my opinion, when you're saying, "Oh, that's
it may be 1,000 years," it may be 1,000 years. Like, yeah, we may go back.
It'll have to
1,000 years. Have like 1,000 years of zombie apocalypse, demons on Earth. So I'm just preparing my soul to go be with Jesus. That's what I'm saying. I'm watching a tsunami of demons coming. And you're right, we will go back to it at some point, maybe. Or maybe we just go to the afterlife,
There's an irony in that too. So
if we're to this golden age, we're not going back to this year. And you can argue the best is inscribe all this. We have to save this information so that during the whole nuclear eclipse, the information remains, so that we don't have to start over from scratch.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Which 100%. I'm sure rich people have already thought about. I'm sure the trillionaires have already thought about this.
See, there's in this particular political spectrum, there is one caveat, and there's one thing I would change. I would make it shaped like a horseshoe. And the reason for that is because when you have no government and you have the strong men, the tribal, they end up taking over and taking control and becoming immediately one of the total government. I would love
to. I mean, I'm not. I would love to be in a giant tribe and be the head of the tribe. Although it'd be more likely that I would be the priest, and then I would just be the priest standing behind the tribal head and telling him what to say and do. And I could play that role for sure.
Well, everybody, the beauty of a capitalist and constitutional system is that you could be whatever you want to be, and you don't necessarily have to affect the entire society.
Isn't this a commercial? Isn't that a commercial from when we were kids? Be all that you can be.
That was the army. That was the army. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that when I was a kid.
It
None
was
of
a
my
pretty good.
relatives were in the army. My relatives were all Navy and Marines, and then I worked for the Air Force. So I don't have any connection with Army.
Yeah,
Do
there,
you?
there. The army was, yeah, oh yeah, my whole family, like literally, my dad was a
Was
amazing
Army.
colonel and
Okay.
physician. Yeah, so they're have heavy connections there. My son's in the army. He's in Fort Liberty right now, Fort Bragg, as we should say.
Yeah.
It'll always be Fort
Okay.
Bragg. It'll never be Fort Liberty. But yeah, so but heavy connections to all of that. But I mean, the reality is that I just think that the
Did they
government needs
change the
to
name from
scale
Fort
back.
Bragg?
Yeah, it's Fort Liberty now.
Uh,
Yeah, it's no
when did they
longer Fort
change
Bragg.
it?
Quite a while ago, actually. Like,
Why didn't they like Fort Bragg? Yeah.
I don't know. I think it maybe 10, 15 years ago
Well,
now.
why did they not like Bragg? Is it somebody that's like
Revisionist history.
quite?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining today. That was just a partial clip of what we were talking about. We have more coming. So if you could like and subscribe down below, I would really appreciate that. We're going to have more conversations like this, and it's going to get even spicier. So we're going to clip these up, and we go through these random conversations to talk about this stuff all the time. So we'll have plenty more. Thank you for joining and subscribing to Histrospophy. Make sure to hit the like button. It's super important to grow the channel and to get everybody on board. So till next time.